Calliope rises to power, taking the throne because she wants everything for herself. To secure her position, she kills Schneasel, the crown prince. Afterward, she hangs his head at the castle gates as a warning to others. Schneasel had hosted a grand banquet to celebrate her return from the battlefield, not knowing what she had planned. During the banquet, when everyone is gathered and celebrating, a man starts yelling at Calliope, accusing her of murdering Schneasel. He is furious and demands justice. Calliope remains calm and unmoved by his outburst. She simply turns to Raffaello Farnese, the Marquis of the Kingdom of Alfensiad, and instructs him to take care of the situation as they had planned. They present the crown to Calliope, and she thinks about how long and hard her journey has been. As an illegitimate child, she is constantly bullied. Her mother drinks poison and dies to repent for her affair with a knight, pushed into it by the concubine who leads her to her wrongful death. Her brother, Ezekiel, leaves the abbey with a noble lady, probably trying to become the concubine of an old, rich noble to find a better life. Even the one she loves abandons her because she is powerless. But now, things are different. The time has come for Calliope to take back what is hers. Meanwhile, Ezekiel Niches, captain of the Order of the Silver Knights in Panroem City State, is undercover and talking to one of his fellow knights. The knight tells Ezekiel that they have searched far and wide, but they can't find any family named Theodore. The knight wonders if Ezekiel might have gotten the name wrong. Ezekiel insists that Theodore is the correct name, at least as far as he remembers. They continue to discuss the situation, trying to figure out why they can't find any trace of this family. Some ladies nearby start gossiping about Ezekiel. Suddenly, a boy runs up to him and says that Cardinal Anton is looking for him. The boy explains that everyone has been searching for Ezekiel since he wasn't in his room. The cardinal said it was a very urgent matter, so Ezekiel needs to go back quickly. Ezekiel listens and agrees, understanding the urgency, and heads back to see what the cardinal needs. At home, Ezekiel meets with Cardinal Anton. Anton tells him that he needs to take his order of knights and go to the kingdom of Alfensiad. There, he is to take on the name of Duke Hylic. Essentially, Ezekiel, the captain of the paladins in Panroem City, is being sent to the border kingdom of Alfensiad. On the way to Alfensiad, one of Ezekiel's men remarks, "Who knew you were the son of Duke Hylic? No wonder you have a different air about you." Ezekiel responds, admitting he was surprised too. He explains that they left him at the Abbey right after he was born, so he must not have been important to them. Let's go back to when Ezekiel was talking to Anton. Anton asks if Ezekiel is aware that a new king has recently taken the throne in Alfensiad. They call her the Bloody Calliope, a violent king who craves blood and slaughter. It's scary how she's managed to bring the entire northwest of the continent under her control. Right now, she's not paying attention to them because she's busy executing her political enemies after seizing the throne by force. But if things keep going this way, she'll eventually pose a threat to the border of Panroem City as well. Not just Duke Hylic, even the royal family of Alfensiad is pushing for Ezekiel to become the heir of Duke Hylic. It's a really tricky situation for them. Ezekiel needs to hear all the details from his father. All they're asking of him is to accept the status as the son of the Duke. Ezekiel feels overwhelmed by the pressure and responsibility being placed on him, but he knows he needs to consider all the implications before making a decision. Even though the man he just met was his father, he surprisingly feels nothing. It doesn't feel like he's about to become a noble. However, once he does become one, it'll be easier to find people. He wonders where she is at this moment. Ezekiel approaches Cal as she sits on the throne, exchanging greetings. Cal remarks that she nearly nodded off while waiting, which catches Ezekiel off guard. Suddenly, Cal raises her voice, insisting they begin the ceremony immediately. Puzzled, he questions what ceremony they're about to start. The Archbishop steps forward and announces that they are commencing the wedding ceremony of King Calliope Regina Alfensiad and Lord Ezekiel Hylic. This declaration leaves Ezekiel and his companions stunned. They had assumed Ezekiel was there to seek approval of his status, not to be married off to the king. Cal stands up from the throne and declares that Ezekiel must be in need of an explanation. She reveals that Duke Hylik sold him to her in exchange for his own life. None of Duke Hylika's other sons were deemed worthy of becoming her prince consort. They were either old, ugly, or unable to control their desires. After she executed them all, she remembered Ezekiel, her forgotten illegitimate son. Although it's unconventional to offer an illegitimate child in marriage to the direct line of descent, Ezekiel's reputation as the highly reputed captain of the Panremian paladins and his rumored good looks made her consider it acceptable. Therefore, he has become her prince escort. If he refuses, she threatens to behead his people one by one until he agrees. The ceremony begins, and before they know it, Cal and Ezekiel are declared husband and wife. Later, in the bedroom, Cal pushes Ezekiel onto the bed. She confesses that she holds a grudge against Duke Hylik. Despite being a high-class noble, he spent his time sucking up to the late king's concubine for power. Cal warns Ezekiel not to expect kindness from her, as he's the descendant of Duke Hylika's bloodline. Just then, Ezekiel calls out Cal's name, shocked to see her. He touches her face, expressing disbelief that they've met again in such circumstances, and realizing she's the new king of Alfensiad, Cal grabs Ezekiel firmly, emphasizing that she climbed the throne to grab everything she desires. She demands to know how he's been, questioning why he didn't even bother waiting for her. Ezekiel pleads for a chance to explain what happened in the past, asking Cal to listen before getting upset. However, Cal dismisses his request, stating she's not in the mood to hear it right now. Taking matters into her own hands, Cal ties Ezekiel's hands to the bed, asserting that he must fulfill his duty as the prince consort. Ezekiel tries to reason with her, asking for unity, but Cal refuses, refusing to even hope for his compliance. She instructs him to stay still while she sets the tone for their relationship. Cal tears apart Ezekiel's shirt, telling him not to be nervous. She warns him about the consequences if he appears weak as the prince consort on their first night together. Cal reassures him that she's prepared everything and suggests they have some fun. She then initiates kissing him. The next morning, Cal looks at the bite marks on Ezekiel while he sleeps. She tells herself to consider this a cruel twist of fate. This, she believes, is his punishment for abandoning her. The maids chat away, sharing stories of the past when there was bloodshed every day. They're glad it's all over now and didn't reach their families. However, they can't help but feel sorry for whoever the prince consort might be. They wonder how he'll cope with everything. Meanwhile, Ezekiel joins a group of people at a tea party. One of them brings up a conversation he had with the Grand Chamberlain. Apparently, the prince consort is still referred to by his original title. He's seen as Her Majesty's partner, so it's only polite to treat him with respect. They discuss how Cal seems to have taken a liking to him, which sparks curiosity among the group. Farnese strides in, announcing that Her Majesty is searching for Ezekiel. Ezekiel hesitates, not wanting to leave his honored guests, but they insist he should go if it's Cal looking for him. Raffaello Farnese, a man with deep historical roots, doesn't like this obedient behavior from Ezekiel. The Farnese family has a long history of loyalty and conservatism. They remained loyal to the queen even when the king's concubine held power. Because of this loyalty, they faced a lot of humiliation. Fortunes and misfortunes often come hand in hand. As Calliope's position began to solidify, the nobles started speculating that Ezekiel might one day become her partner. Despite their loyalty to each other as liege and retainer, arranged marriages between royal family members and nobles were common. Ezekiel once cautiously asked Calliope about her intentions regarding this matter. However, he didn't hear her reply, so he's still unsure of her answer. Farnese is lost in thought, wondering why rejection stings so much even when he's not in love. It hurts his pride to be turned down. If she won't even give him a chance, who could she possibly be interested in? As time goes on, he eventually sees the prince consort chosen by Calliope. Farnese studies Ezekiel closely, observing his demeanor and finding him lacking in the qualities he deems necessary. He can't bring himself to accept Ezekiel, partly due to the way he perceives him. However, there's a deeper concern lingering in his mind, the thought of Cal. Inside Cal's office, she quizzes Ezekiel about the tea party, seeking his feedback on how he felt it went. Ezekiel, admitting it was his first time attending such an event, expresses uncertainty about his performance. Cal probes further, inquiring if anyone made remarks about his necklace. Ezekiel denies any such comments. Then, Cal probes deeper, questioning if Ezekiel harbors any dissatisfaction with the gift she bestowed upon him. Ezekiel denies any discontent, but Cal's response is a swift rise, her anger palpable as she warns him not to deceive her. She accuses him of abandoning his vows by leaving the priesthood for marriage. Ezekiel tries to defend himself, but Cal remains unconvinced. She challenges him to prove his loyalty by stripping off his clothes, suggesting that his physical commitment will demonstrate his dedication to her cause. Cal dangles the tantalizing prospect of reuniting with the Order of the Silver Knights, knowing it would stir his curiosity. After some time, Cal decides to let Ezekiel leave. Shortly after he departs, a servant knocks on Cal's door and enters, reporting that he found the ring inside Ezekiel's bedside table drawer. Apparently, Ezekiel had requested a jewelry case from the Royal Highness to safeguard something important. Cal slams her hand on the table in frustration, realizing Ezekiel had kept the ring hidden from her. She wonders what could be so important to him. Then, she asks the servant if Ezekiel also had a pendant necklace, describing it as a simple gold locket for storing dried petals or herbs like a tea infuser. The servant replies that he hadn't seen anything like that. Cal instructs him to summon Farnese, feeling the need for a change of scenery, and the dimly lit tower where the late King Gregory's presence still lingers. The once proud concubine of the late king, Marchioness Borelli, sits in chains on the bed. Cal strides in, her voice echoing off the stone walls as she calls out Borelli's name. But Borelli remains silent, her eyes filled with a mixture of defiance and despair. She can't help but wonder if Borelli's mind has already begun to unravel, considering it's been less than a month since the king's passing. Borelli, visibly agitated, struggles against the weight of the chains that bind her to the bed. In a fit of anger, she lashes out at Cal, blaming her for the humiliating situation she finds herself in. Farnese, ever the picture of composure, interjects, urging Borelli to show proper respect to Her Majesty. But Borelli remains obstinate, refusing to yield an inch. Instead, she insists that Cal address her with the reverence befitting her position as the mother of the Crown Prince. Cal, unfazed by Borelli's defiance, meets her gaze with a knowing smile, a glint of mischief dancing in her eyes. She reminds Borelli of their previous discussions on etiquette, subtly implying that her memory seems to have conveniently faltered at this crucial moment. Years ago, Cal pleaded with Borelli to let her hold a funeral for her mother, desperately hoping to honor her memory. However, Borelli's response was cold and dismissive, as she pushed Cal away with disdain. She scoffed at the notion of paying respects to a woman who had been stripped of her title due to scandalous behavior. She persisted in her plea, promising to do whatever it took to honor her mother's memory. Despite Borelli's initial refusal, Cal's unwavering determination eventually softened Borelli's stance. Reluctantly, Borelli agreed to grant Cal a week to bid her mother farewell. However, she made it clear that she would lock the door to ensure no one disturbed Cal during this time. With a cutting remark, Borelli sarcastically wished Cal well, hoping she would find solace in her final moments with her mother. After 7 days, Borelli finally opens the door, accompanied by her children. As they step into the room, the stench hits them like a wall. Borelli's children can't help but laugh at the foul odor. Borelli joins in, giggling as she comments on the unpleasant scent. Turning to Cal, she asks if she's done saying her goodbyes. Cal nods, expressing her gratitude for Borelli's kindness and apologizing for any rudeness or ignorance she may have displayed. She thanks Borelli for her generosity in allowing her to hold a funeral for her mother, despite her mother's scandalous past actions, addressing Borelli respectfully as Your Royal Highness. Back in the present, Cal remarks to Borelli that it's quite amusing to see her grin so widely over a simple change of title. She points out that Borelli's mistake was keeping her alive. She got too carried away with her victory. But now, she reminds Borelli that she can't become the queen consort anymore. Cal casually mentions that she beheaded Crown Prince Schneasel and displayed his head on the castle gates. Since she tossed his body into the hunting grounds, it's likely the wild animals had a feast. Cal reflects on how Schneasel was actually a good son who, unbeknownst to the late king, brought beautiful young men for his mother. Since she's no different from a starving beast, she should have yanked out his insolent tongue and offered it to her as a treat. That would have made him an even greater son. And she must be curious about what happened to the second prince, Edmund. The promiscuity of his lower half took after that of her and the late king. He used to roam around, trying to hit on anything in sight. She has a vivid memory of him shamelessly pulling down his pants in an attempt to seduce his own half-sister, openly embarrassing himself at a banquet. She remarks that a useless animal in heat must be castrated. She fed his small package to the pigs and tossed him into the pig pen as well. As for whether he's still alive and well, who knows? Since he doesn't discriminate between males or females, he might be having a good time with the hogs right now. She also expresses interest in hearing about her lovely youngest daughter. She was generous enough to keep her alive. Borelli asks where Ramen is right now, and Cal insists she should ask nicely. Cal reluctantly admits that she couldn't bear to look at Ramen's face because it reminds her too much of Borelli, whom she despises. So, without a second thought, she tossed Ramen into the dungeons. Borelli, ever the protective mother, defends her daughter's honor, insisting that Cal should have intervened to prevent the criminals from mistreating her. She boldly labels Cal a monster, unleashing the full force of her resentment and anger. In response, Cal's temper flares, and she retaliates by pushing Borelli to the ground. As she stomps on Borelli's hand, she delivers a harsh rebuke, commanding her to keep silent. In her eyes, Borelli and her children played a significant role in shaping her into the ruthless ruler she has become, so she sees no reason for Borelli to deny her responsibility for the monster she has become. Despite her cruelty, Cal finds a twisted sense of amusement in Ramen's behavior, deeming her methods of obtaining jewelry and flaunting them to be rather amusing. She relishes in the power she holds over Ramen, knowing that she has locked her away in a solitary room where no man, no matter how tempted, can lay eyes on her. Cal mentions that if Borelli dies, her own anger might get directed at you, so it's best for Borelli to stay healthy and happy. Cal adds that Borelli needs to be entertained for a long time. Then, Cal tells her servant to bring a feast for the Marchioness. They serve a delicious meal to Borelli, and Cal comments that she's heard Borelli usually enjoys eating simple food. From now on, she'll prepare a special meal for Borelli on the days she visits. This way, Borelli will eagerly look forward to those visits. Cal tells Borelli to take her time and enjoy the meal. Borelli asks if Cal has found her mother's last memento, that tacky pendant necklace. Cal warns Borelli to address the Royal Highness with respect from now on. If she doesn't, Cal threatens to cut off Ramen's fingers. Bishop Johannes is being flogged while hanging up in the prison when Cal enters, smiling. She says she notices he was in the middle of a consecration prayer. Brother Ezekiel left the Abbey with a noble lady on his own. People think he's trying to become the concubine of an old, rich noble for a better life. Alphen, the youngest bishop at 36 years old, cries out and calls for Cal. He begs her to get him out of there, saying he can't take it anymore. Cal can't believe what she's hearing. She tells Alphen that she can't have someone with such an important duty talking like that. After all, he was named the youngest bishop of Alfensiad at such a young age in exchange for praying for the late king in this holy chamber. But Alphen argues back, saying he didn't think this would be the holy chamber, and he was never told that this would be the prayer. He suggests that she just take back his title as bishop because if he keeps getting whipped like this every day, he'll end up dead. The situation is getting more intense by the minute. Cal tries to make Alphen see reason, telling him that even if he ends up getting whipped to death while doing his duty in the holy chamber, he's pretty much guaranteed to go to heaven. She reminds him that being chosen for such a sacred role comes with a promise of an afterlife. But Johannes just keeps on crying, saying what they're doing isn't prayer at all. He's begging Cal to let him go. Cal stands her ground, though, telling him straight up that he knows it's not prayer, but that doesn't mean he shouldn't try to make things right. Cal hits back at Johannes, telling him that what he's experiencing now is just payback for what he made Ezekiel go through at the Abbey in the name of the prayer of penitence. Then she turns to Farnese and tells him that they're leaving. She promises Johannes a grand funeral and sarcastically tells him to look forward to it. As they walk outside, Cal instructs Farnese to show the prince consort where the Order of the Silver Knights is located. She emphasizes the importance of conducting a thorough background check on them, making sure he doesn't miss any details. In the room, Ezekiel asks Farnese if he's actually free today. He's heard that Farnese is busy with work every single day. Farnese confirms that he's finally got some free time and suggests they go out together. Ezekiel responds, saying if Farnese had just told him where they were going, he could have gone on his own. Farnese replies, claiming he didn't even have time to tell Ezekiel, which sounds fishy to Ezekiel. As Farnese and Ezekiel stroll along, Ezekiel remarks on the seemingly remote location of the third drill hall. Whenever these two groups bump into each other, it tends to cause chaos and mayhem in the palace, disrupting the peace. Feeling a sense of responsibility as the captain of the Order of the Silver Knights, Ezekiel expresses his apologies for any trouble caused by his knights. He assures Farnese that he'll personally speak to the Silver Knights, warning them to avoid clashes with Farnese's noble knights in the future. When they arrive at their destination, Farnese and Ezekiel see the knights having another heated argument. Farnese sighs, commenting that it's about time they learn to get along with each other. Suddenly, they overhear one of the knights saying something shocking, that the prince consort is a male prostitute. The knight clarifies that he's actually complimenting the prince consort for being good in bed. The conversation continues, with them discussing spreading rumors about Farnese's captainship being from the infamous Ethelhart Abbey, known for allegedly selling boys to noble women. At the palace, it's like a party with tons of people dropping by to congratulate Cal on her recent marriage. They bring all sorts of gifts, but Cal finds herself getting pretty bored with all the formalities. She starts wondering where Ezekiel is, wanting a bit of company to break up the monotony. After asking a nearby guard, she learns that he and Farnese headed off to the third drill hall not too long ago. Cal decides that she's had enough of this scene and suggests they go find the prince consort for a change of pace. Meanwhile, over at the third drill hall, the knights are still at it, arguing and bickering like there's no tomorrow. Ezekiel is beyond frustrated with the whole situation, feeling personally attacked by some of the things being said about him. He's steaming mad, but he knows he's got to keep a level head and deal with the issue at hand. As captain of the Silver Knights, he knows it's his responsibility to maintain order and discipline among his troops. With a deep breath, Ezekiel steps forward and declares that he'll take full responsibility for the chaos unfolding before him. He vows to ensure that his knights face strict punishment for their behavior, making it clear that he won't tolerate any further disrespect or insubordination. He also resolves to personally apologize to Her Majesty for the disturbance and humbly ask for her forgiveness. The other knights continue to gossip and talk trash about him behind his back. Cal storms in angrily and demands to know what all the commotion is about. The knights immediately bow down, looking scared. She gently strokes Ezekiel's face and tells him it's better to face the situation head-on than to avoid it. Turning to Farnese, she remarks on the sorry state of the knights, noting that their discipline seems to have been seriously lacking. Farnese agrees and suggests doubling their training starting today. Cal nods in agreement, praising his idea and instructing him to relay the message to everyone. She emphasizes the importance of showing respect to the prince consort and warns that she won't repeat herself. After a while, Cal takes Ezekiel's hand and tells him she needs to speak with him alone. She insists that they shouldn't be interrupted. Cal hurriedly leads Ezekiel to a private spot where they can talk without interruption. She urges him to speak up first. Ezekiel begins by apologizing for the rude behavior of his knights, but Cal interrupts him, saying that's not what's bothering her. Ezekiel then confesses that she may have heard rumors about the Abbey he came from being known as a prostitution house for noble women. Cal is visibly shocked to hear this revelation. He quickly grabs her hand and explains that while there may be some truth to the rumors, he personally had nothing to do with any such activities. He hopes there's no misunderstanding between them. Cal reassures him, saying she doesn't care about those kinds of rumors. The scars on Ezekiel's back serve as proof that he didn't sell his body, but Cal can't shake the feeling that her experience with him might not have been his first. She starts grinding her teeth angrily, but Ezekiel gently touches her lips, warning her not to damage her teeth. Cal snaps at him, saying she's had enough of his small talk and wonders why he hasn't asked for her forgiveness yet. Ezekiel hesitates for a moment before replying that he thought she had already forgiven him. Cal quickly takes back her forgiveness, leaving the air between them tense and awkward. After a moment of silence, Ezekiel nervously asks if she's planning to do it here, as they're still outside. Cal reassures him, saying she'll handle it quickly so he shouldn't worry. After their discussion, Ezekiel realizes that finishing quickly won't be an option. He suggests they find a place inside or at least some shelter from the elements. However, Cal disagrees, playfully scolding him for using please if he wanted something. Despite the awkwardness, they manage to resolve their differences and continue with their day. Later on, Cal meets up with Farnese to discuss the situation with the Silver Knights. Farnese instructs her to continue the report, explaining that the prince consort has addressed the issue with the Silver Knights. He gave them the choice to either stay where they are, return to a secular life, or head back to Panruem City. Surprisingly, all of them decided to stay put. Cal nods thoughtfully, acknowledging that the prince consort's popularity might have played a role in their decision. She suggests considering them as the prince consort's personal order of knights. However, she also emphasizes the need for them to adopt a new name to reflect their new role and identity. Farnese agrees with Cal's suggestion and promises to help the Silver Knights come up with a suitable name. Cal mentions that she's heard Farnese has been having afternoon tea with the prince consort lately and suggests he continue doing so. She points out that since he'll be seeing the prince consort for the rest of his life, it would be wise to build a good relationship with him. Farnese then brings up one more thing he needs to report. He explains that it's regarding the background check of the prince consort that Cal had ordered earlier. He promises to only report the noteworthy findings without repeating what they already know. Farnese continues his report, revealing that they uncovered a house that the prince consort had kept hidden for a long time. Apparently, he's had it since he became a paladin. The whole place is decked out with furniture for two people, giving off major newlywed vibes. As they settle in for tea, Farnese brings up that Her Majesty didn't order any punishment for the Silver Knights. It seems like the whole insult incident from last time has been sorted out well. Ezekiel chips in, saying he managed to smooth things over using his charm. Getting affection from Her Majesty isn't something to be shy about. Farnese agrees but reminds Ezekiel not to let his guard down completely. His position still feels a bit shaky to them. For one, he hasn't received a wedding ring yet. Ezekiel reassures Farnese, mentioning that Her Majesty promised to get one for him soon. They both agree that it's important for Ezekiel to stay vigilant and maintain his position as smoothly as possible. Farnese suggests to Ezekiel that if he plans to keep living in the palace, he should make sure Her Majesty truly cares for him and leave any past issues behind. Ezekiel responds, saying he doesn't really have a past to leave behind. Later that night, Ezekiel lies on his bed, pondering to himself about the past that Farnese mentioned. He wonders if it's about his time at the Abbey, but Cal already knows about that, so what's all the fuss about? Just then, Cal bursts into the room, looking furious. Cal playfully grabs Ezekiel's hands and teases him about tying him up so he can't escape. He laughs and strokes her hair, asking why she would even think he'd want to run away. Cal jokingly bites him in response, adding a playful edge to their banter. Ezekiel then brings up the wedding ring she promised him, wondering when he'll finally get it. He suggests he could take care of it himself if she's too busy with work. Cal feigns annoyance, calling him a cruel bastard for bringing up the ring in front of her. She playfully scolds him, emphasizing that he shouldn't even mention the ring in her presence. She flops on the bed, and Ezekiel tells her she's his first and last, the only one in his life. She calls him a liar, but he insists there's no lie in what he's saying and begs her to believe him. She questions why he left her when she needed him the most, knowing she wanted to be with him. He asks if she'll listen to his explanation, but she dismisses it, saying explanations won't change what's already happened. She's tired of dwelling on the past, on the naive princess she used to be, and doesn't want to talk about it anymore. She insists that he should promise to stay by her side and never leave her. Even if it's not true, he should tell her he loves her. Ezekiel reassures her, saying he loves her a lot and would always stay with her. He emphasizes that there's nowhere else he'd rather be than by her side. He's willing to say it as many times as she wants because he truly means it. The next morning, Cal wakes up to find Ezekiel still sleeping, his hands tied up, and his ripped shirt lying on the ground. She wonders if this is going to be their routine from now on. Just then, Farnese calls from outside, letting her know it's almost time for her to leave. Cal quickly responds that she'll be there right away. Cal arrives at the hidden house belonging to Ezekiel and decides to go in alone. As she explores, she notices that Ezekiel had planted the trees and flowers in the garden himself earlier this year. Inside, she sees that everything is in pairs, except for her. Feeling unsettled, she starts to wonder if Ezekiel had someone else here before. As she moves through the rooms, she begins to destroy the furniture, overwhelmed by thoughts of who this other woman might have been. She imagines she must have been chosen by Ezekiel and wonders what kind of person she was. Cal can't help but feel a pang of jealousy, imagining that she must have been beautiful both inside and out. Cal realizes she needs to stop before she ends up hurting Ezekiel herself. She knows she has to let go of the obsession she's been clinging to for so long. It's time to put an end to it once and for all. Years ago, Cal vividly recalls the source of her anguish, the relentless harassment her mother endured from the concubine. The situation seemed hopeless, with her prayers feeling futile in the polluted atmosphere of the palace. Convinced that her supplications wouldn't reach the heavens amid the palace's filth, Cal resolves to take matters into her own hands. With a heart heavy with worry for her mother, Cal sets out on a quest for divine intervention. Her destination, Ethelhart Abbey, renowned for its sacred aura that purportedly elevates prayers to divine status. Despite the rumors, Cal finds herself overwhelmed by the sheer size of the Abbey upon arrival. Each step she takes is fueled by the hope that her entreaties will be heard and answered, bringing relief to her beloved mother. That's when Cal spots Ezekiel sitting, and she thinks he's an angel. Ezekiel, however, wonders inwardly if she's one of Johanna's guests, though she seems too young for that. Cal asks if he's an apprentice priest at the Abbey and requests him to show her where the praying chamber is. Ezekiel, unable to speak because he's supposed to be in silent worship all morning, can't reply. Cal then asks him what he's doing and explains that she wants to pray for her mother's health. She insists he should show her the way, and Ezekiel nods in agreement, ready to guide her. He guides her to the praying chamber, and she exclaims that it really seems like it will make her prayer divine. Grateful, she thanks him, but notices he's silent. Wondering why, she jokingly suggests he might be mute. Regardless, she decides it's time to pray. She tells him not to leave, as she doesn't know the way back, and he nods in agreement. Together, they prepare to offer their prayers in the sacred chamber. Ezekiel thinks to himself that it might be better to go to another abbey if it's for Cal's mother, but he guesses she doesn't know about this place. Meanwhile, Cal continues praying fervently for her mother's healing. She even pleads with God to transfer her mother's sickness to the concubine, tears streaming down her face. Noticing her distress, Ezekiel offers her a handkerchief to wipe her tears. Cal gratefully accepts it, promising to have it cleaned and returned to him. She suggests he sit with her until her tears dry up, if he has the time. The girl sitting next to Ezekiel seems to have a very complicated family life. She questions why, if God hates adultery, he allows her household to be in such turmoil. She angrily wishes that the concubine would be struck by lightning as a form of divine punishment. Cal explains that her father is the one with the most sins. Even before her mother had her father had 3 children with the concubine. Despite having a wife he promised to spend his entire life with, he cheated on her with a courtesan and even started another family with her. Cal continues to vent her frustrations to Ezekiel, saying that it seems like all the noble men around her father keep at least one mistress even after they get married. She finds it disgusting and can't understand why they bother to get married if they can't be satisfied with just one person. She shares her strong feelings on the matter, declaring that if her husband ever cheats on her, she'll mince him to pieces. Cal believes that all men who cheat on their wives and children should be castrated. Cal confides in Ezekiel, admitting that despite her appearance, she comes from a very noble family. She explains that she's not usually so chatty, but she feels comfortable talking to him like she does with her pet dog, Lovely. Ezekiel quietly reflects that Cal must have been very lonely, just like him. When Cal mentions feeling hungry, he decides to take her to grab something to eat. As they walk, Cal continues chatting away, oblivious to the time. Eventually, Ezekiel breaks his silence, mentioning that the silent worship hours are over. Cal is surprised to hear him speak and realizes he's not mute after all. Just then, Johannes arrives, looking for Ezekiel. Cal excuses herself, bidding Ezekiel farewell. 2 weeks later, Cal returns to the prayer chamber. She mentions she's there to return something she borrowed, believing it's polite to return things herself. Plus, she adds, it's only right to return it with some extra favors. She quickly clarifies that she didn't come because she wanted to see Ezekiel's face or anything like that. Just then, she spots a wolf nearby. Cal warns the wolf not to come any closer, but it continues approaching. Suddenly, Ezekiel hears her voice and realizes she's in trouble. Just as the wolf is about to pounce on her, Ezekiel springs into action and saves the day. He quickly asks Cal if she has anything edible with her, and she confirms she does. Ezekiel tells her to throw it quickly, and she tosses it far away as the wolf follows. Once they're safe, Cal asks Ezekiel if wolves are always around here. He explains that they don't usually come too close, but the one from earlier must have been hungry. Cal breathes a sigh of relief, grateful for Ezekiel's quick thinking and bravery. Ezekiel asks Cal why she's here today, and she explains that she came to return his handkerchief. She notices he seems to need it, so she thought she'd return it. Cal considered putting it in a case, but she figured that might be too much, so she baked some cookies instead. Ezekiel politely suggests that she should use the handkerchief first. Cal introduces herself, but Ezekiel admits he won't be able to call her by her name. However, he promises to remember it for next time. The weekly meetups between Cal and Ezekiel continue, and now Ezekiel is teaching Cal how to fight with a sword. Cal marvels at how skilled he is with a sword, considering he's just an apprentice priest. She wonders what he'll do once he comes of age soon. Ezekiel explains that he'll either return to secular life or dedicate himself to God and stay in the church. Either way, he believes he'll leave Ethelhart Abbey. He originally planned to leave sooner, but even if he decides to stay in the church, he prefers becoming a paladin over a priest. He feels that Ethelhart Abbey focuses more on theology research and isn't the best place to train as a knight. Cal expresses her worry about feeling lonely when Ezekiel leaves, and he asks about her future plans. With a sigh, she shares that she'll probably end up in an arranged marriage. She doesn't have much choice in the matter. Until then, she's enjoying her freedom to wander around. Trying to cheer her up, Ezekiel suggests she'll meet someone wonderful. But Cal looks at him sadly, feeling skeptical. She imagines ending up with an older man, balding with a big belly, as arranged marriages often feel like being sold off. She admits it would be a welcome change if a young man like Ezekiel were to propose. After a moment of silence, Ezekiel moves closer to Cal and gently leans in. He reaches out and removes a petal from her hair, and she responds by patting his hair affectionately. He then grabs her hand and quickly says he's not the lovey-dovey type before darting off, claiming he's being summoned by Johannes. Curious, Cal follows him, and as she catches up, she sees an older woman with the priest. To her surprise, it's the Marchioness Borelli. Cal wonders why the Marchioness Borelli is here, but before she can question further, Ezekiel covers her mouth and quickly ushers her to a secluded area. Confused, Cal asks where they are, as she thinks she saw someone she knows entering the building. Ezekiel explains that it's a special praying chamber, and it's not a place she should go near again. Cal silently doubts that the Marchioness could be so pious. She reassures Ezekiel that she must have mistaken someone else for the Marchioness, and promises to listen to him. More importantly, she brings up their interrupted conversation. Curious about what he was going to say while holding her hand, she reminds him of the significance of touching an unmarried woman. Ezekiel apologizes to Cal, and she looks at him with a smile, saying there's still time for him to make it up to her. However, she warns him that she won't let him off easy next time. Later, at home, Cal's mom, Renelle, breaks the news that a marriage proposal has arrived from a certain duke. She laments the significant age gap of over 50 years, wishing that His Majesty would reject it. Unfortunately, he didn't. As they sit together, Cal leans on Ezekiel and asks him if paladins can get married. He explains that they cannot, unless they give up their title as a paladin and return to secular life. Cal wonders if it's a bit more flexible than for priests, but Ezekiel clarifies that the rule remains the same. However, he admits that sometimes it seems like paladins find ways around it, and the church turns a blind eye. He explains that paladins often start families first and then return to secular life after gaining enough honor and wealth. Once they do, they get married, as they can't leave their child to be illegitimate forever. As someone with a higher position in the church, they can still live comfortably even as a commoner. Cal then asks Ezekiel if he would like to live together with her, given the circumstances. A naive noble lady and a commoner orphan, it's a mismatched pair. The lady can't imagine enduring a tough life with a man who has nothing. Ez tells her she's taking the joke too far. He reminds her she's the daughter of a high-class noble family and should choose a noble to marry. She gets teary, feeling overwhelmed, and complains that he expects her to marry some old, out-of-shape guy. Frustrated, she calls him an idiot and storms off, running away from the conversation. Ez watches the lady walk away. He knows she's always been treated unfairly because of the mistress and her children. How could he possibly ask her to step into the same role? He imagines her being labeled as just a mistress, bearing an illegitimate child until their own child grows up. The thought weighs heavily on his mind, and he struggles to find a solution that won't bring her more pain. Just then, Johannes barges in, breaking Ez's train of thought. Startled, Ez turns to him as Johannes excitedly mentions seeing a strikingly beautiful noble lady on his way there. Trying to hide his inner turmoil, Ez nods casually and admits that he knows her. He mentions that she occasionally visits the area to pray and that they've exchanged a few words in passing. Johannes scoffs at the idea of the lady praying. He questions if there's really nothing going on between them. Then, he jokingly suggests that Ez wouldn't mind him joining her for a different kind of prayer. Seeing Ez's reaction, he quickly clarifies that he's just kidding. But then Johannes gets serious. He warns Ez not to develop any feelings for the lady. Grabbing Ez's face, he notes the conflict in his eyes and jokes that he looks like he needs a penitence prayer, probably because he got flogged hard. Ez tries to brush off Johannes's teasing, but he can't shake off the feeling that his friend might be onto something. A month passes, and Ez finds himself attending penitence prayers more often lately. If he's not careful, he might get caught up in them. Suddenly, Cal interrupts his thoughts, asking if he's feeling unwell. Ez assures her he's fine. She apologizes for not acting like a lady last time and slides a box towards him. It's a pendant necklace, and she explains that it's her treasure. She wants him to keep it safe. Ez promises to treasure it, feeling touched by her gesture. Meanwhile, Johannes overhears their conversation and thinks to himself that she's not bad. He wonders if there could be some demand for her. Cal asks if Eze can call her Callie, but he hesitates and refuses. She suggests playing a game where the loser has to grant the winner's wish. After some contemplation, Eze reluctantly agrees. They start the game, and luckily for Cal, she wins. Eze begrudgingly calls her Callie, as per the game's rules. But then, Cal clarifies that her wish wasn't just to be called by her name. She whispers to Eze, suggesting he should kiss her. He wants to say something, but he's too nervous and trembles. Before he can respond, Cal pulls him in and kisses him. Eze realizes there was never any chocolate with rum in the first place, she tricked him. But he can't help but enjoy the moment as they continue kissing. Cal suddenly pushes him away, saying she'll treasure the moment forever, and then she runs off, leaving Eze standing there, stunned. When Cal gets home, the maid tells her that the Duke sent her a gift while she was out. He hopes she'll like it. Curious, Cal takes a look and sees that it's a wedding ring. Cal also notices some jewelry among the gifts and tells the maid to put them away. In frustration, she accidentally drops them to the floor, declaring that she doesn't want to see them. The maids wonder if she has someone else in mind. In her room, Cal feels overwhelmed. She tells herself she can't go through with the wedding, especially after giving him a farewell gift. Just then, there's a knock on her door. She's informed that her wedding dress is ready. But when she sees the beautiful white dress, it makes her feel sick to her stomach. 2 months later, Cal goes to Ethelhart Abbey hoping to see Eze, but he's nowhere to be found. She sighs, realizing it's been quite a while. She wonders what she would even do if she did run into him, but she can't deny that she misses him. As she enters the chapel, Johannes approaches her and asks if she's lost. He kindly offers to show her the way. While they walk, he mentions that Eze is in the middle of a special prayer at the moment. Johannes guides her to a room where she can wait for him. Cal recognizes the passageway from before as they enter. Johannes suggests she can stay and pray for a bit while he goes to call Eze. Alone in the room, Cal notices the smell of incense, just like the one the concubine keeps in her father's room. She wrinkles her nose, she hates that smell. Looking around, she sees it looks like a place for praying, but there's a strange feeling in the air. She notices a bed in the corner and wonders if it's for resting during prayers. Time passes, and there's still no sign of Eze. Cal starts feeling restless and a bit hot. She wonders if Eze is purposely ignoring her or if the Reverend didn't do his job properly. She decides she'd rather go look for him herself than keep waiting. As she considers searching the rooms, she hears voices. Curious, she peeks into another room and is shocked to see Eze tied up, his back already bleeding from lash wounds. She can't believe what she's seeing. She wonders what kind of place this Abbey really is. Cal rushes over to Eze, holding him and urging him to wake up. He opens his eyes and calls her name. She reassures him that she'll get him down. As she tries to release him, he asks her why she's here and insists she shouldn't be. Panicked, he tells her she needs to leave right away, before Johannes comes back. But Cal refuses to leave him like this. Finally managing to release him, she asks what happened. Eze explains that it's a type of prayer, but Cal realizes it was Johannes who did this. Eze insists that's not important right now. He urges her to leave immediately and promises to show her the way out. As they hear footsteps approaching, they quickly hide in the shadows, hoping not to be seen. Johannes enters the room, his voice echoing in the quiet space. He seems puzzled, wondering aloud where Ezekiel has gone. He mentions something about making him repent while he still has some time left. Eze holds California close, covering her mouth with his hand to muffle any sound she might make. Cal's heart races as she tries to remain still and silent, her mind racing with fear and confusion. She listens intently to Johannes's words, trying to piece together what's happening. Johannes continues talking, He mentions something about a blonde lady walking involuntarily, and how the second prince would be delighted to see her. Cal's mind races as she tries to make sense of it all. Then, suddenly, it hits her like a bolt of lightning: the second prince is her stepbrother. Her eyes widen in shock as she processes this revelation. Ez realizes that Johannes was planning to offer Cal to a royal. He must have used a tranquilizing candle with a light scent to try and make her fall victim to it. He's relieved she didn't. As Johannes leaves the room, Ez and Cal come out and manage to run outside. Feeling shaken, Ez apologizes to Cal for having to witness such a thing. She tells him he should explain what's going on. She can't just accept that it's merely a form of prayer. She demands to know what happened to his back. Ez explains that some nobles pay offerings to fulfill their sadistic tendencies. Apprentice priests are chosen to fulfill these desires, and Johannes oversees the process. Ez realizes Cal must already be overwhelmed, so he hesitates to tell her that some are forced to sell their bodies. Cal reacts with disbelief, calling it madness. She questions if the Abbey is meant to serve God and wonders if all abbeys are like this. Ez reassures her, saying no. Ethelhart Abbey, being close to the royal capital, became corrupted from receiving offerings from central nobles. He believes other abbeys are probably normal. Cal questions why Ez chooses to stay at Ethelhart Abbey if it's so corrupt. She suggests they go to a normal abbey where they can be together, but Ez responds that if he leaves, he won't be able to see her. Feeling hopeful, Cal suggests they run away and live together. Ez gently explains to Cal that her noble status means she's never experienced real hardships before. He worries that even if they were to run away, their situation wouldn't magically improve. Cal, her eyes glistening with tears, struggles to accept his words. She tells Ez that he's both the kindest and the cruelest person she's ever known. Through her tears, she vows to change her fate. She promises to educate herself, to read books and study diligently until she's smarter and more worldly. She refuses to remain a sheltered lady who doesn't understand how the world works. As a symbol of her determination, Cal reaches for the pendant necklace Ez had given her. However, instead of keeping it, she hands it back to him, insisting that he wait for her. She pledges to return for him once she's grown and ready to face the world on her own terms. Later that night, as the shadows lengthen and the abbey grows quiet, Johannes seeks out Ezekiel. With a hint of begrudging admiration, he commends Ezekiel for his daring escape from the penitent's prayer. Curiosity gleams in Johannes's eyes as he probes Ezekiel about the details of his escape, wondering aloud if it was the mysterious blonde lady who aided him. Johannes's fingers brush against Ezekiel's pendant as he taunts him with insinuations. He suggests that Ezekiel might have resorted to whining to women about the frequent penitence prayers or even used his own body to manipulate them. Ezekiel bristles at the accusation, vehemently denying such claims. But Johannes is not convinced. His voice rises in anger as he accuses Ezekiel of orchestrating the lady's interference, accusing him of manipulating her into blowing out the tranquilizing candle, despite Ezekiel's prior warning. Johannes's temper flares, outraged that Ezekiel would dare to talk back to him after all the care he's provided. He scolds Ezekiel sharply, reminding him of his place within the hierarchy of the abbey. Johannes points at Ezekiel, telling him that since he participated in the penitence prayer, he's no longer exempt from being chosen. He orders Ezekiel to wash his face immediately and come out, insisting that he can't show such a filthy face to their esteemed guest. The esteemed guest turns out to be Marchioness Borelli, who expresses her boredom with seeing the same faces every day. Her son, Edmund, the second prince, tries to calm her down, reminding her that this is their place to distress. As they walk past Ezekiel, he silently prays that Marchioness Borelli will just walk past him. Unfortunately, she stops and takes notice of him. With a disdainful remark, she comments on his quality, comparing him to a product still on the shelf. She declares that she'll take him tonight. Marchioness Borelli notices the pendant hanging from Ezekiel's neck and remarks that it's interesting. She questions where he got it from. Ezekiel responds casually, saying he found it lying around. Doubting his story, Marchioness Borelli scoffs and tells Johannes that she's intrigued by Ezekiel and needs to confirm something. She instructs Johannes to prepare him and wait for her return, promising that she'll be back soon. As Johannes leads Ezekiel away, he remarks that it's a good thing he got Ezekiel ready. He predicts that Marchioness Borelli will take a liking to him. Johannes tells Ezekiel to feel honored to have been chosen by such a noble lady. Johannes leans in closer to Ezekiel. He continues to lay out his plans, emphasizing the importance of impressing Marchioness Borelli for potential promotion. He could be quickly elevated to a higher position within the Abbey's hierarchy. Johannes urges Ezekiel to also consider the second prince. Then, Johannes brings up the topic of the blonde lady who used to frequent the Abbey. His tone shifts slightly, becoming more insistent as he inquires about her return. He presses Ezekiel for information, asking about her family background and suggesting that he should bring her back to the Abbey at all costs. Sensing Ezekiel's hesitation, Johannes offers to assist by writing a letter to the lady, proposing that Ezekiel simply provide him with her name. Johannes's words are cut short as Ezekiel abruptly slams his head against a nearby tree. The sudden, violent action shocks Johannes into stunned silence, leaving the air thick with tension and unanswered questions. Ezekiel drags his body forward, declaring that he's done with acting like a coward. He admires Cal's bravery, even if it sometimes leads to rash decisions, realizing that he's been too afraid to take action. As he runs, he reminds himself that acknowledgement from the church isn't everything. He vows to go to Manhwa City, become a paladin, and climb to the top of the holy church. Even though he's not noble, he believes he can still make Cal happy. Meanwhile, Marchioness Borelli grows impatient waiting for Ezekiel. She's informed that Johannes has been buried under a pile of leaf mold, which infuriates her. There were many questions she wanted to ask Ezekiel, and she's determined to ensure he doesn't leave the royal capital. Ezekiel finally makes it to downtown. He's determined to get a horse no matter what. But as he looks around, he notices something alarming. His face is drawn on a paper, labeling him as a wanted criminal. Panic sets in as he realizes that everyone is being searched. Ezekiel enters a blacksmith store and decides to melt the pendant into a pair of rings. Afterwards, he flees from the people searching for him, managing to escape by jumping from a great height, making them think he wouldn't survive. Once he reaches Manhwa City, he meets with the eminence and begins his training. Ezekiel has a chat with his undercover ally, expressing his wish to investigate in the kingdom of Alfensiad. However, the ally explains that it's a no-go zone for now. Marchioness Borelli, the one in charge, holds tight control there. No one can come or go freely, the borders are sealed tight. Rumors swirl about her searching for someone specific. He wonders if maybe it would have been wiser to heed Cal's advice and wait for her instead of saying uncertain goodbyes. As Cal returns to the Abbey in search of Ezekiel, she's met with Johannes's revelation that Ezekiel has left the Abbey with a noblewoman of his own accord. Johannes elaborates, suggesting that Ezekiel might be seeking to improve his circumstances by becoming the concubine of an elderly, wealthy noble. Apparently, Ezekiel has been romantically involved with several noblewomen and ladies, and it seems this particular woman is just one of them. Expressing a mix of disappointment and concern, Johannes mentions that he had even resorted to putting Ezekiel in penitence prayers in an attempt to curb his habit of pursuing noblewomen. Cal's frustration boils over, causing her to angrily break her umbrella. She lashes out at Johannes, telling him to keep quiet and not insult Ezekiel. Feeling foolish for even asking someone like Johannes, she storms off. As she walks away, Cal reflects inwardly on how even people like the old bell ringer and the sick old man, who aren't influenced by Johannes, are echoing the same rumors. They believe Ezekiel sold his body for a better life. Cal struggles to believe such accusations against Ezekiel, but she's left feeling unsure about who to trust. As Cal returns home, she's shocked to find her mother drinking poison. Borelli comments on Cal's arrival, remarking on how much free time she seems to have despite delaying her marriage for various reasons. Borelli expresses disappointment that Cal couldn't be there for her dying mother due to her supposed excuses. Days later, the maids gossip among themselves about Princess Calliope's state. They say she's gone completely mad, locking herself in her room since Her Majesty's funeral. There's talk of her nearly harming a visiting nobleman yesterday, leading to the cancellation of her marriage. He left furious, declaring he couldn't live with an insane woman. The maids speculate that Princess Calliope's madness is the reason she's been confined to the tower, abandoned by her family. It's a sad fate for the direct line of descent. The maid brings food to give to Cal, silently thanking her lucky stars that Cal isn't acting out today. Honestly, she didn't want to come because she's afraid Cal might have another tantrum. But she figures she has no choice since it's the Marchioness's orders. She'll just have to report back that everything was fine. As the maid is about to leave, Cal asks her if the Marchioness ever rewards her for following orders so faithfully. Cal tells her not to act clueless. She knows that all the servants and maids who come here are working for the Marchioness. Anyway, Cal points out that the Marchioness takes their hard work for granted. Even though the maid climbs those stairs every day, the Marchioness has never once rewarded her. But Cal assures her that she's different. If the maid works for her, Cal promises to reward her accordingly. The maid asks if there's something Cal wants her to do, and Cal replies that she wants her to secretly send a letter to Marquis Farnese. Once she gets a reply, she should give it to Cal. In return, Cal promises to give her 1 pearl for each letter she receives in response. Cal suggests that if the maid sells the pearls one by one, nobody would suspect they were stolen. With the money, she could live a comfortable life. However, Cal adds that she'll find someone else if the maid isn't interested. After many days of sending letters, Borelli orders Cal to the borderlands. It's like they're telling her to go and die. Apparently, it was Farnese's idea, and Borelli agreed to it. Farnese said that having someone from the royal family at the border would boost army morale. But how can Cal fulfill her role as a member of the royal family in her current state? It all seems so cruel. Cal is willing to do anything for power. Rolling around in dirt is nothing compared to the pain she endured before. She conquered their enemies, and now the army sings her praises. Farnese remarks that Cal is up early, and Cal responds that she couldn't sleep because she was thinking about what to do first after ascending to the throne. More importantly, she asks about the carriages she sees. Farnese explains that they're paladins from Panroem City, free hillbillies who travel around offering humanitarian aid. Just then, Cal spots Eze from a distance. She instructs Farnese to investigate all the silver-haired paladins from Panroem City. She wants their names and facial features, if possible. She doesn't want Farnese to ask why, just to do it. Cal has already decided what she'll do after ascending to the throne. While the king is away, the prince consort, Ezekiel, dedicates himself completely to his roles and responsibilities. Ezekiel frequently meets with the nobles to understand the current political situation in the capital. He listens to their concerns, gathers information, and works hard to mend the relationship between the royal family and the nobles. One day, while Ezekiel is in the middle of his busy schedule, the cardinal pays him a visit. The cardinal comes as a representative of the church, bringing a message. He tells Ezekiel that he can return to the church anytime he wishes. The offer seems sincere, but Ezekiel isn't impressed. The church brings back painful memories for him. It reminds him of a parent who only feels sorry after abandoning their child. He continues to focus on his current duties, putting the kingdom and its people first. However, things are different for the Order of the Silver Knights. Ezekiel, or Eze as they call him, has already told them that they don't need to stay in the capital. He reminds them again, saying, "I've told you all before, there's no need for you to stay here. You shouldn't stay somewhere you don't want to be just because of me. You can go back to Panroem City now." But the knights are stubborn and loyal. The knights tell Ezekiel that he doesn't need to stay in the capital. They argue that his marriage was unjust and forced, and they remind him that there is another woman he truly loves. They all know he has been searching for a certain lady for years. The knights say, "We all know you've been looking for someone special for a long time." Ys takes a deep breath and finally reveals the truth to them. "For your information," he says, "the lady I've been searching for these past 10 years is actually Her Majesty. I met her back when she came to pray at Ethelhary Abbey. She gave me a different name, and I never imagined she could be a princess. That's why I couldn't find her." The knights are stunned by this revelation. Farnese bursts into the room, clearly upset. Ys tells him that it's not good to eavesdrop, but Farnese says that's not the issue. Farnese accuses Ys of being the guy who seduced the queen at the Abbey and then took off. Ys admits it, and Farnese says he can't believe it because Ys doesn't even have the queen's memento necklace. Ys explains that he had to melt it into rings due to some unfortunate events and apologizes sincerely to the queen. Farnese asks Ys why he left Cal back then. He wants to know if Ys realizes how much she suffered after he left. Farnese asks if Ys is going to make another excuse about his circumstances and says he shouldn't have left. He should have stayed by her side no matter what. Ys then tells the Silver Knights to give them some space, and they leave. Ys walks up to Farnese and says he's been thinking about this issue for a long time. He asks Farnese if things would have turned out better if he had stayed by Cal's side, even if it meant sleeping with Borelli. Farnese says he will stay quiet but insists that Ys should tell Cal about this himself. Ys agrees, and Farnese adds that he might want to do it as soon as possible. Ys says that as long as Her Majesty is willing to listen, he would tell her everything, even today. Unfortunately, he's been looking for the right moment to bring it up because he didn't have the confidence to talk about such a sensitive subject without hurting her. Farnese tells him that if he doesn't have the confidence to talk about it, he should at least show his sincerity through his actions. Just then, there's a knock on the door, and someone informs them that Cal has returned and will be arriving at the palace soon. After Cal takes her bath, she asks Ys why he's dressed up like that. He explains that the servants heard her tell him to prepare himself, so they dressed him up. Cal realizes she should probably start drinking less and tells him to sit down so they can talk. As they sit, Ys apologizes for not seeing her off when she left. She says she left in a hurry, so it's understandable. She then asks how he's feeling, and he says he's fine and asks how she is. She replies that she's fine too. Ys breathes out a sigh of relief, admitting he worried he might have come on too strong the night before she left. Cal chuckles and reassures him, saying no matter how assertive he is, he won't match her pace. Ys nods in agreement, a smile on his face. Curious, Cal wonders what's going through his mind. Despite her actions, he seems content and cheerful. She considers that he's still tied to the church and likely used to following orders without question. Perhaps he views his current predicament as a test from God, a challenge he's meant to overcome. She figures Ys must be smiling outwardly, but inside, he's probably hurting. Throughout her trip back, she couldn't shake the thought of letting him go, but she realizes she can't. Now, all she can think about is breaking him down to have him, even if it means hurting herself in the process. She pushes a box towards him, and he eagerly asks if it's a ring. Disappointed, she tells him no and explains it's for a bet, the game they used to play years ago, a little tradition between them. Ys decides to take the lead this time, remembering how he lost last time. But as he gets into it, he suddenly realizes he's fallen into another one of Cal's traps. Cal just chuckles, saying she's got a knack for setting traps. Ys nods in agreement, joking that she's like a skilled hunter, luring prey into her snares. This time, though, she's the one who's caught. Cal teases him, saying he seems really eager to dig into the truth. She wonders aloud if there's something specific he's after from her, especially considering how enthusiastic he's being about the game. Cal asks Ys what he wants. Does he want her to kiss him? Or maybe he wants her to take off the ring she gave him earlier. Or perhaps he wants her to set him free. Cal thinks to herself that this is Ys's only chance to get away. She believes there's no way he wouldn't take it unless he thinks it's another trap or that she's lying. But she's okay with whatever his reason is. If he says no, then it's fine. Just then, Ys surprises her by saying no, he wants to hold her instead. Cal asks him why, and he explains that he felt lonely during the week she was away. He wonders if he's the only one desperate for company. Cal thinks to herself that if that's the case, then she won't let him go. Days later, during a routine checkup, the doctor shares some exciting news with Cal. She's pregnant. It's estimated that she's around 4 weeks along. However, the doctor's words come with a gentle reminder: from now on, Cal must be extra cautious about her diet. Certain foods can pose risks during pregnancy, so the doctor promises to provide her with a list of foods to avoid. Cal listens intently, determined to do whatever it takes to keep her baby healthy. Overjoyed by the news, Farnese offers her heartfelt congratulations to the expectant parents. Turning to Ease, Farnese offers some friendly advice: he needs to step up and take good care of Cal. After all, keeping her happy and healthy is now his top priority. Ease nods earnestly, understanding the importance of his new role. With a grateful smile, he thanks Farnese and pushes him out. Cal thinks to herself, wondering about Ease's expression. She wonders if he's finally realizing that it's too late to leave, that there's no turning back now whether he likes it or not. Ease rushes over to her, and Cal asks if he's happy. He responds with a quick yes. Then, Ease asks if there's anything he can do for her. He promises to do whatever it takes to ensure she and the baby stay healthy throughout the pregnancy and birth. Cal reassures Ease, saying he doesn't need to worry about the baby's health because, of course, the baby will be healthy. Then, she suggests they should celebrate the pregnancy somehow. Ease chuckles, reminding her that she's the one who's pregnant. But Cal insists that since Ease played a big part as the prince consort, he should tell her if there's anything he wants. Ease gently takes her hand and says he does have something in mind. He wants her to come with him somewhere special, a village near the border, a small lakeside town. They reach the house, and Ease presses the doorbell, but there's no response. He figures the caretaker must be off duty today, taking a break. Ease wonders if the caretaker has gone out for a short while, maybe running errands. Meanwhile, Cal silently acknowledges that the caretaker is nowhere to be found. She recalls that she had bribed the butler and sent him packing some time ago. Ease, sensing the situation, lets out a sigh. They're left with no other option but to enter the house without the caretaker's presence. Ease informs Cal that they'll be staying at the house for 2 days. He mentions that he arranged for the nights to stay at the village inn. Cal nods in acceptance. Ease then asks if she's curious about where they're going next, but Cal simply replies that they'll find out when they get there. Ease smiles, hoping she'll enjoy the surprise. They arrive at the place, and Ease tells Cal to wait while he checks something. He hurries inside the house. Cal thinks to herself that Ease should see this as payback for bringing her to a house meant for another woman. She finds it too cruel, especially since he pretended it was for her. Inside, he searches for the ring but can't seem to find it anywhere. As he surveys the wreckage, Ease wonders if a burglar was behind this mess. But he can't understand why someone would destroy the house with such intense hatred and malice. It's heartbreaking to see everything he owned reduced to nothing. Cal enters the scene and notices the tears in Ease's eyes. He quickly apologizes, explaining that this wasn't what he intended to show her. He's at a loss as to why this happened. Cal wraps her arms around him, feeling his distress. She reassures him, promising to build him a brand new house. But not just any house, she vows to construct a grand palace, bigger and more impressive than this pitiful mansion. With determination in her voice, she pledges to create a home for them that will be unmatched in splendor and beauty. Cal declares that she'll adorn every inch of their new home with marble, gold, and precious stones. She envisions lining the hallways with treasures and artwork. Ease is taken aback by her ambitious plans. He questions why she would suggest such extravagance. While the mansion may seem insignificant to her, to him, it holds sentimental value that can't be replaced by material possessions. Cal wonders aloud what's so remarkable about the mansion. She can't fathom why he's so upset about the house being ruined. Ease attempts to convey that the mansion holds a special place in his heart, but Cal cuts in, frustration evident in her voice. She expresses her anger, suggesting she has a story to share. It's a story about how she was the one who shattered his heart, the one who caused him pain. Cal reveals the ring and admits that when she investigated his background, she discovered he had kept his house a secret. Feeling annoyed, she confesses that she destroyed it herself because it irritated her. It bothered her to see him treasure the house and fill it with sentimental items, like a squirrel hoarding acorns. Inwardly, Cal reflects on her actions. She married a man who doesn't truly love her, pretending to share affection. She even went as far as destroying what he held dear. She finds her behavior ugly and pathetic. He's reluctant to admit her true feelings, but she knows he'll only understand if she tells him. Cal finally opens up to him, explaining that she went to such extremes because she believed he loved her. Iz is puzzled by her words. He asks why she's speaking like that when, in reality, she loves him. He wonders why she wants to hurt him, as it's not like her. He reveals that he built the house himself, thinking of her while he tended to the garden, picked out dresses, and filled the house with every little thing. He's confused as to why she would do this. Iz is filled with confusion and doubt. He wonders if it was all just a misunderstanding. Does she really hate him, like what others have been saying behind his back? Was she planning to get back at him for being part of the detested Hylic bloodline? Was his love just a bother to her? But he refuses to believe it. He knows she's not the type of person to treat him like that. There must be a reason, so he pleads with her to tell him why she did this. Cal wraps her arms around him, holding him close as she confesses it was all just a big misunderstanding. She explains that her jealousy got the best of her because she thought the house was meant for another woman, assuming he had married someone else. She couldn't comprehend why he cherished a mysterious ring she had never seen before, especially after he had discarded the necklace she had given him. He explains that it was fashioned from melting down the necklace she had given him, bearing his soul in an effort to mend the rift between them. Hoping to dispel any lingering doubts, he recounts the entire tale. As Cal listens, tears shimmer in her eyes, reflecting the weight of her remorse. She offers profuse apologies, her voice laden with sorrow for the misunderstanding. However, Iz's swift embrace envelopes her in warmth. He gently reassures her, urging her to release her burden of guilt. He takes ownership of his own shortcomings, acknowledging his failure to speak up sooner. Iz tenderly reminds Cal of their wedding day, recalling how he willingly embraced their union with open arms. He assures her that being her companion and holding her close has always been his greatest desire, regardless of any circumstances. With sincerity in his voice, Iz reaffirms that he never felt coerced or pressured into anything. He goes on to express his unwavering commitment as her prince consort, promising to stand by her side through every trial and triumph they may face together. 2 years have passed, and Princess Charlotte has grown into a beautiful baby. Iz carries her gently, his love evident in every movement. The servants admire her already impressive grip strength, joking that she'll be a natural with a claymore, especially Exation, the royal family's cherished sword. They marvel at her royal lineage, noting that she inherits the strength and courage of Her Majesty, the conqueror of the continent. Another servant chimes in, highlighting Princess Charlotte's lineage from Iz, a skilled paladin in his own right. They discuss the promising future ahead for the young princess. The West Tower is officially shut down, and they've completed the funeral for the 2 bodies. The bishop, who lost his mind, has been taken to Ethelhart Abbey for long-term care. They'll keep an eye on him regularly to see how he's doing. It's similar to what happened with the previous Princess Raman, who was sent to a nunnery for care at Iz's tea party. Everyone gathers around Princess Charlotte, showering her with compliments about how adorable and graceful she looks. Iz beams with pride, saying she inherits all her charm and elegance from Her Majesty, making her truly remarkable. As the party continues, laughter fills the room, and the guests enjoy their time together. Suddenly, Cal walks in, surprising everyone with her unexpected arrival. Her presence adds a touch of excitement to the gathering, and the atmosphere becomes even livelier with her joining the tea party. Later on, Iz and Cal find themselves alone in the palace. Cal teasingly remarks that since Iz is always busy taking care of their daughter, she had to come looking for him herself. Iz counters by reminding her that she's often tied up in meetings whenever he tries to visit her. They share a chuckle, agreeing that they're both at fault sometimes. As they relax together, Cal brings up a more serious topic. Their daughter Charlotte needs a sibling. They discuss the importance of continuing the Hylic family line. Despite the busyness of their lives, they both appreciate the peacefulness of the moment, enjoying each other's company in the tranquil atmosphere of the palace. With this beautiful story comes to an end. If you enjoyed it, please like, share, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more. Until next time, ciao.